Thank you all for joining us today for the event for the center hosted by the center. So for our faculty student conversation. So our students are definitely excited to share some of the strategies and motivational techniques their STEM instructors use to sort of help them through the course. And I hope that sort of we're, I guess, a receptive audience to some of their, experiences and things. Before we get started, what I wanted to do was just let each of them go through and introduce themselves and tell a little bit about themselves. So I guess if we can start.
Alright. Hello everybody, I'm Jamar, and this is my second year at SMC, and I'm a part of the STEM Scholars program, and I know Binalan for Dr. Bocanegra. And I've taken a few STEM classes on campus, including Math 7, 8, Chem 11, and 12, Science 10. And it's been a great experience so far. My major is computer engineering, and neuroscience. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Leo Porter-Zasada. I'm part of the STEM and Scholars program as well. I'm a chemistry major. I've taken Chem 10, 11, 12, 21, and I'm in 22. And Math 31, 32, 22, 7, and I'm in 8. And Physics 14 and Bio 21. That's all of my STEM classes. And I'm happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Tamara Mbuka. My list is not as long as Leo's, so don't be overly excited. This is my beginning of my second year at SMC. I'm part of the STEM program. I'm a mechanical engineering astrophysics major, and I'm really excited to be here and to share what I've learned and to hear your responses about it. Yeah, and I'm sending Catherine to space. Just so you know.
So I'm Catherine Bremer. I'm also part of the STEM program. I've been at SMC for 2.5 years now. I started with Chem 10. I've gone through Chem 21. I started with Math 31, and I'm currently in Math 8 with Leo. I've done SI for Dr. Nolly and embedded tutoring, and I'm also a chemistry major, and I'm also very excited to be here. So.
My name is Joe Chacon, and it's been my second year here at SMC. I have taken Chem 10 up to Chem 12 right now, and I'm currently working on Bio 21. And so I hope to get into a pharmacy program. So that's pretty much it.
Hi, my name is Brandon Levion. This is actually my first semester at SMC. I've been a concurrent student since summer going into my 9th grade year, and I eventually graduated high school a year early. I'm just starting my STEM experience. I've started from Chem 10, I'm in Chem 12, and I'm in Math 2 as well, and I hope to go to medical school.
I'm Poya Ramanfard. This is my 3rd year at SMC, however this is my 1st year full-time. My previous years I spent doing general ed, so I'm kind of just starting STEM courses as well. I've taken Chem 10, Chem 11, I'm in Math 2 right now, and Bio, and I'm taking Chem 12 over winter, and my major is chemistry.
All right, so before we get on to the questions, just a couple of remarks. If you haven't signed in, the sign-in sheet is outside, and before you leave, please fill out one of the evaluation certificates, and then we'll keep going, I guess. So the first question, and any of you can feel free to start off. Often the first day of a SMC STEM course is spent covering routine procedural information. So what would your ideal first day of class look like for a STEM course?
I really like the first day being introduced to what the material is going to be like, being introduced to the expectations of the class and going over the syllabus. Personally, I like to know that going in. I like spending time talking about what to expect in terms of the agreements that we make as students and professors with one another. And one of the most, I guess, memorable experiences on a first day of a STEM class has been in Dr. Nolly's class. He does a PowerPoint and goes over some really important things that I think aren't as discussed in school, which is the basics of like taking care of yourself and self-care, and how important that is to performing well, as well as different, stereotypes, especially in like math and science programs. There are so many stereotypes, who's good at these programs and who's not, and I think a lot of people come in with a lot of fear without even really having had that type of class before, like, oh, I'm not going to do well at this because this is hard. And kind of how to like battle those stereotypes and how to have confidence with material and different like avenues that you can go to for help, and like getting that information on the first day. It all depends on what the student's going to do with it, but being able to be given that information on the first day and like knowing like available resources for myself, or what to expect just in general, like the layout of the entire semester is, I find very vital, and I really like a very organized approach on that day and conveying that information.
Anyone else want to share? Yes.
Also, another really memorable experience, including Chem 11, was with Math 8. I took Math 8 with Professor Askarian in summer, and it was really good because the first day itself was so interesting because he talked about shark attacks, and it's interesting because he was talking about how usually we tend to look at math homework. We don't usually go over our lecture notes, and we just jump to doing our math homeworks after class because we just want to be done with the homework. At times, students don't even bother doing their homework, but that's a different story. But so he was talking about how he gave us a really good example, and I would love to go over it, but I just want to tell that because he connected something that students usually do and what they're not supposed to do to a really funny story, it just stuck to my head. Until today, I'm an SI for Math 8 right now, and I do tell my students every time that. It's better to review your lecture notes before you start doing your homework because it's more helpful, because now you have everything that you need to tackle your homework problems. That was one thing which was really helpful. Another thing was my Professor Mascarin also went over the idea of how to take notes. Usually people do have their own ways of taking notes, and it might seem kiddish when a teacher is trying to tell you in a math class, okay, you take notes like this by making clouds on the side when I say something is important, or by leaving one page empty so that you can write lecture summaries over there when you look at your notes, and then just summarize everything that was there on that page. But in the end, it actually helped me because it was a short semester and there was so much to take in at once. So it helped me in the end. So, just maybe like as Catherine said, that giving us an idea of what to expect in the class and what does the teacher actually expect from the students as far as their homework is concerned, or the way their test should be written, or anything that could help us, and connect it to an example would be helpful.
And just to add on top of that, I've also enjoyed classes where my professors on the first day, they'll go over their syllabus and what they expect, but they'll also share a little bit about themselves with the students, because it helps me to understand not only where they're coming from, but who they are as a person. Like if they share little bits of information, because I've had professors who, generally speaking, I've taken their class because it's been recommended for me from other students, and we all know sometimes students have very weird interpretations of people, and it's nice to know that this is how someone presents themselves when they're talking about themselves. It's very different, and I like that in a class because it gives me a chance to see a professor not just as a professor, but this is a human being, someone just like me who went through processes that I did, and I found that I relate more to professors who are willing to share even just a little bit about themselves. Like, I went through this community college, so I know what this is about. I've gone through these hard classes. This is what I found difficult. This is what I found easy. That's a lot more important to me on first day as well, rather than just let's dash through the syllabus in chapter 1. So yeah.
So if anyone else has a comment or wants to give feedback to the students.
So I have a question. So then you don't mind if we spend time doing that and then you're on your own for chapter 1 material? Because it's review?
No. That's sort of, for me, the first classes that I took, like my first chem class was a Chem 10 class, And we didn't spend as much time in chapter 1 because it's significant figures. This is the decimal point and all that. So if it's not a heavy topic, to me, I'm the type of student where if you spend time on your syllabus and you review a bit of what that first chapter is, if it's not a heavy topic, I'll be more than fine with that. Now, there are other students who might not like that, but I like getting to know my professor on the first day as well. And that's what's more important to me.
I think that also, that helps with like the professor seeming more approachable later on.
Yeah.
Because as the course goes on, it gets more difficult. So in the beginning, I feel like there's rarely any times where I feel like really stressed out or really like confused about a topic. So like first impressions are a big deal. So if like you seem more approachable in the beginning, then later on students are more like willing to come to you and ask questions.
So when does it work, make you work hard?
Yeah.
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 You mean you don't go by ratemyprofessor.com?
Does anyone else have a comment?
I really like on the first day, the most memorable ones were Dr. Galogli's Chem 11 and Dr. Scholefield's Chem 10. We spent time covering the syllabus, and then we spent just a little bit of time and dedicated in the middle there as to how we were learning, what we were going to learn over the next, it was 6 weeks in Chem 10 and over the next 16 weeks in Chem 11, how it was going to apply to the real world and how there were real world examples of what we were learning. And I feel like it served not only to make me more interested and more willing to study the topics, but also it served as foreshadowing, so I had an idea in my head from that point on about what we were going to cover. So, like in Dr. Scholefield's Chem 10, we were about to learn about unit conversions. We were going to do unit conversions for weeks from that point on. So the first thing we did was how many miles is it to the moon, how long would it take you to get there, and how many kilometers is it to the moon, and different stuff like that. And it was very interesting, and I really appreciated that. Just like a little bit of time set aside as to why is what I'm learning important.
Any comments? All right, so let's go on to the second question. So what characteristics would you say are essential for a STEM faculty member to possess to maximize student success?
If I had to say the most integral part would be passion. And how do you describe passion? I can, and I'm sure Puya can second this. My math teacher right now, Mr. Ramsey, you can tell that he's not there because he's being paid to teach us. You can tell he actually enjoys seeing us learn. For example, our first test average wasn't as high as he'd liked, but our second one was. And just he made a small comment after I graded the test this week, I had an amazing game of golf. And everybody started laughing, but you could tell that he genuinely does care. And another thing I would say is that all of you guys as teachers, you have PhDs, masters, you guys are a lot smarter than us in your field. But for lack of a better word, the ability to, I want to say dumb it down to a level that we can understand, because you guys, like I said, do know a lot more than us, but teaching it to us at the level that we can absorb is very important for us. I had one teacher last semester who was an MD, PhD, but he just couldn't get it to the level that we could understand, and it was very hard for us.
I really appreciate organization, first and foremost, and that might speak to my own personality traits. But I really like organization. I really like when a teacher presents the information in a way that it's very clear, or that the class itself, the way that it's structured, just the dynamics of like the practicalities of everything is very organized and clear. And I mean, I understand also, like, you know, sometimes things get switched around, and oh, you know, we got to push this test back a day, or oh, actually, I had a class this semester we had to push it forward because there was a fire alarm that day, and I understand all that stuff, and like that's like just, part of life. But just having an overall organization of the class like really means a lot to me as a student, as well as just being able to build relationships with teachers in different ways. Like I really enjoy having like relationships with my professors around the material, being able to feel comfortable and going to see them or talk to them or email them questions, or just knowing their, like a lot of times I have teachers say on the first day of class, if you email me from an outside email address, it'll get put in my spam box and I won't respond to that. And I like knowing how the professor likes to be contacted, the ways in which is best for me to contact them. And just being able to feel comfortable and knowing like, oh, this is the way that they said that I should contact them, and feeling comfortable in how I'm approaching them. So that approachableness has been vital for me. I've really excelled in classes where I felt super comfortable going to the professor and speaking to the professor one-on-one about the material, especially like while I was like struggling.
I also want to add on and say, I think when professors grade things, like, I know like it's obviously hard to grade like 50 papers, like when you have like a long exam, but if like the results come back faster to us, we can see like how we did and then kind of like move on to the next material. Like there's been times where like it's taken a little long for exam results to come back, and then I'm the type of person where it's like always in my mind, I'm like, how did I do? Like maybe I did bad, maybe I did good. So then I can't really like move on and kind of like actually fully commit to the new material. That's just the way my mind works. But also like keeping in contact with students, like a lot of my professors will like send me emails over the weekend, like with like some like material or like just giving some information. And I just feel more connected in the class that way, because like when you don't see the professor for like 4 days, you kind of feel like that weekend, like you kind of forgot about everything. But just getting an email, even if it's just like, oh hey, or something like that, it kind of reminds you of the course and then the material you learned, so it just keeps me more connected.
That's so, I got a complaint about that.
You gotta complain.
I email every Sunday about what's gonna happen and what to expect and things like that, and I got a complaint, so it's like, it just depends who you're talking to.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, everyone, I feel like it just depends on the person, but.
I think they wanted me to do it on Saturday, but Saturday's shopping. I can't email on Saturday. That was a complaint, you need to email like on Saturday. I'm like, I'm not allowed to. But it is interesting, so it's all personal sometimes.
Yeah.
There's no right answer.
Yeah. I think it's also because we deal with just a lot of different types of students, because I'm noticing, like from what they're saying, I'm a social type of person, and so I like when my professors and I have not only that sort of teaching relationship, but I can go to you and say, oh, this week something like this happened to me, and then I thought about this in class, which is sort of how it's affecting who I am. And personally, that's the most important thing to me, that I don't look at you and see you just as a professor. Like I can go to this professor and explain something to him or her, and they'll be like, I completely understand, what happens to people. It's not like they're telling me, okay, I'm giving you a pass on something, but to have a professor who's also approachable, not just, email-wise or just in class related, but if I can come to your office hours. It's very important to me to go to office hours, by the way. I know some students aren't like that, but I just hound them. And sometimes it's important to know, like, oh, I won't have office hours this week. You don't even have to give me a reason, but just say, we won't have it, but I'll try to make it up this week. Things that, that human contact to me is very important. So that's nice to me, yeah.
Anyone else? Any comments? So one thing that I think that we've discussed a little bit, that idea of showing passion. Do any of you have examples of how your STEM instructors have shown passion for the subject, or passion that they want to teach you?
For my Chem 11 introductory day, my professor was going through the syllabus and stuff, and this kind of like adds on to the first question. He kind of like went through like the lab stuff. He was like, and he told us, he's like, oh, we have so many fun labs this semester. It's going to be really exciting. And he gave us like some like small examples, like, oh, we're going to be like setting this on fire and it's going to glow bright. Stuff like that just showed like he actually cares. Like, yeah, he actually does this and it's fun, and it kind of made it like seem more fun to us. So we were more excited about it going into it.
The most passionate professors I've ever had is definitely Dr. Anderson. I had him for Chem 21, I have him for Chem 22 right now. And you can just tell as he's teaching that he loves everything he's saying. Like everything, all the information he's teaching us is, he just loves it. There's a smile on his face when he says a long complicated word, like the name of a molecule, and then he gets this big grin on his face. Like, I love chemistry. he just clearly enjoys, it's so clear in every moment that he's really enjoys what he's doing, and it makes me enjoy it. It puts a smile on my face, and it makes the material much more approachable, and it makes him much more approachable. And I really appreciate that, and I love it.
Yeah, for like Physics 21, we both have a teacher who's new, and her name is Tram Dang. She's amazing. Like she's so passionate about physics. It just makes us like smile every time. Like there is no point, I guess, in the class that there is like this silence. Even if there is, she will make sure that everybody just like is like not worried about understanding physics, but taking it in a more like friendly way. And I just love her. Like she's just amazing. She's like a packet of energy. And I just like, and it's like for like after like a really long day, you have another class, and it's like 3 hours, 4 hours. We completely understand that the teachers are tired too, and it's like I don't know. It's like when teachers are passionate about stuff, it just comes out, and that's like I just love that teacher. Like, yeah, it's really good. So yeah.
I also like it when professors share the material that they worked on with us. Like whatever the basis of what you got your degree on was, what interested you in it. I like knowing it because sometimes I find that I like that same thing, and it's kind of just quirky to know, like, oh my gosh, this could be me, and then I'm like, oh no. In a good sort of way. But it's interesting to me to know that, because sometimes I forget that you went through the same things that I did, and I think it also works in reverse, where we get to a level where like, I can't even remember that this used to be hard for me, but knowing what got you interested in that specific field, because I have a math professor right now who shares with us like the paper that he wrote that got him his degree, and I looked it up finally. It was actually quite interesting. I was like, oh, I get this now. And so it's interesting to me also to have you share what got you interested in it, even if it's just for like a little bit. That shows me how much you are interested in it and how much you care about it. And it's more likely for me to see the relations that I have, like these are similar things.
Anyone else?
And if I could, yeah. All the professors that I've had in the STEM fields, I feel like are really passionate about what they teach. I think one of the more influential qualities to be passionate about that has influenced me as a student is to see the professor is really passionate about teaching. And I've had a few professors that are in this room who have all been very passionate about teaching. And that has meant the world to me. Like, to see that someone is not only interested in the information, but like to see the passion in like that aha moment when you see like a student like gets this complicated issue, whatever it is, or a complex system, or a mechanism in biology or whatever it is. And when I have like a conversation with a professor about something and I see them see me get it and they're like, yes, like, and that like moment is so special. Like, I think that that's been like very influential to me as a student.
Anyone else? Any comments? All right, so our next question is a little longer. So what are some of the things STEM faculty members have done to contribute to your success in a STEM class? So, and then can you give specific examples of STEM faculty members, what STEM faculty members have done inside of class and outside of class? Yeah.
Well, so far all my chemistry professors that I've had, when I've had questions, I would go to their office hours, and especially Professor Pecorelli, I remember one time I didn't understand a chapter and I went up to him and asked him, can you please help me on this chapter? And he told me, he was very supportive, and he told me, I'm sure you'll figure this out yourself, and if you still can't figure it out yourself, then come by and see me again. So when he told me that, he gave me that confidence that I needed to overcome this obstacle, and so that still sticks on to me today, you know. Sometimes something as simple as telling a student you could figure this out yourself, or try and see what you can do, and if you still can't figure it out, then come back and I'll be here for you, you know.
I've had a very dissimilar experience, like Gil mentioned. I had one professor, at any point in a student's career, they will reach a point where they don't understand something. It's normal. These are hard subjects. I had a teacher, I asked him a question and he said, "How is it that you don't understand that?" Because he couldn't fathom the fact that he knows it so well by now, but how can I as a student not get it? And for me that was a little devastating. It made me scared the rest of the semester to ask questions. And I was actually sitting in the front of the class when I asked that question, and nobody else the rest of the semester asked questions. I actually had one student come up to me and said, "I have a question, but can you ask it for me?" Because he's already screamed at you, but he likes you, so it's fine. So that was hard for me because I love to ask questions. In math, I'll be asking questions all the class. Not to an annoying point, because that can also hinder learning for the rest of the students, but every student has questions. And another thing, in math right now, we have outside review. Professor Ramsey, I think teachers are mandated to have an hour and a half a week of office hours. And I've never been big on office hours. I've never gone to office hours. But his outside review is like 3-4 hours a week. And it's not office hours, it's like a classroom. He has a classroom and it's always filled. And I think Professor London was telling me, express to the teachers, how does he get you to come there? He approaches it once we're in class, like if you weren't in the review, you're missing something. Like he said something in that review that will put you behind if you haven't attended it. And I think it's been very beneficial to all of us.
Now, see, I find that beyond offensive, in the sense that I was told the time I have to be here. You don't find it at all offensive that if you don't have this extra 3 hours? Like, what if you were a student who couldn't go to that particular time?
Well, one thing I want to clarify is that it can help you greatly to be there, but you can still completely get an A if you're not there. He doesn't teach anything that he wouldn't teach in class, but he just clarifies it for you and spends more time in depth if you didn't necessarily understand it in class.
Would it be beneficial if in the schedule of classes or in advance you knew what those hours were for planning your schedule?
I think that would help a lot because, yeah, there are students who can't attend. I have the benefit of being able to attend all the hours, but there are students who can't. But he does it before and after. But again, I completely agree with your point.
Yeah, I was gonna say pretty much everything you just said. And like being available is like a really big part. And like I've had professors like give me their phone numbers, like to text them, or like email address. And then another thing, like the approachable thing that he was discussing, I've had a professor where the whole class, he came off like a little strong, but I guess the whole class was kind of like scared of him. Like I wasn't, I would always ask questions, and like people would always come to me with questions, and then I would go to him with that question. And like I could tell he knew what was happening, like, but I don't know. So I think just being approachable is a really big part of like contributing to like our success. And to add to like Ramsey's office hours, like that's helped so much, like going to his classes. It's like the same stuff we like to add on to your question. It's the same stuff that we do in class. We're just reviewing more problems, and it's more like homework questions and stuff. So it's more like a practice setting where you can do it with the professor and he can show you like ways to solve it, and that helps as well. What's up?
Yeah, would you have attempted those problems before, or are those completely first time?
Oh, in his session, it's a mix of both. We do homework questions, so we come in and then the students ask him, "Oh, can you do this problem on the homework? I didn't understand it." He does that.
So you'd have attempted it before?
Yeah, and then if there's a time where it's like it gets like quiet, no one has any questions, he's like, "Okay, like I brought in a few questions like in case this happened, which might help you like prepare for the exam." So he gives us a lot of questions that help you prepare, and he says like an hour before class and after class, each class we have. And I've been to the earlier session every single one since the class has started.
Another thing is that, as I said earlier, that I had a Math 8 summer session, so I think in the short semesters, the teachers aren't supposed to have office hours, or I don't know, they don't have office hours because it's a short semester. I don't know how that works, but our professor, he told on the first day that, okay, I will be having like an hour, like depending on how the class is doing, if you guys need, then we might have extra hours before class, because it's a short semester, and he strictly told the students that if you guys did not get an A or a B in your Math 7 class, and if you are taking another class with this class, I would highly recommend you to rethink your decision, because Math 8 does get intensive during the short semester. So he did tell us what are the trade-offs and what are the problems if you take Math 8, if this is your scenario, and people did get a better idea of what to do. So people who did stick to the class, they were actually given extra hours, like as office hours, but he would like teach, answer our homework problems as they said. But again, another thing is, if the teacher is ready to give homework, like such extra sessions, the students tend to not do their homework, because then they're like, oh, we'll just ask him in the class. And another good thing about our teacher was he would actually ask us our process. What was your process of solving this problem? How did you try to tackle the problem? And then if the student did not have an answer, he's like, forget it, I'm not going to answer that problem. But then that would force the student to think that, why did I not actually try to solve the problem? And another thing I said earlier was the lecture summaries, like, he would encourage us to leave a page blank because we could write our processes there. He would always tell us to actually try to solve a problem and write a process, like where exactly am I having a problem? Because we know that we have this problem of time. Nobody has a lot of time to focus on one subject, or the teachers themselves, of course, have many students during the office hours. So definitely encouraging students to, be more clear about what exactly is their problem does help the students as well as the professors to cut down on the time they spend understanding where was the problem. So again, like these strategies, like if you keep on trying to just trying to incorporate them in your lectures, do not only help students in that class, but then they start thinking a certain way, which helps them tackle other classes as well. And another thing is for my chemistry, I had Dr. Nelly for my Chem 11, and the thing was, we were always because we always had the access to office hours and a Facebook group, it was always so much better and so much accessible, because as we say that we would always try to email the professor, but definitely we don't expect the professors to answer our emails every single time we email them. So we had a Facebook group wherein the professor, he would not only put his helpful tips there, but every single student who had a problem with any question would post it there, and the students would be willing to help them there. So that's another thing that was really helpful for me, and I did that in my Chem 12 class, and it helped every single student, almost every single student. So yes, so that's all I have to say.
And just to add on to that, I think for me what's most helpful, because I'm currently in Dr. Nolly's Chem 12 class, and I like it that sometimes I don't have to go to him. I post on the Facebook, or there are questions that other students can help me because they've asked him about it already or they know it. So having that other source of way to basically reach out to the class is a lot better. And it's interesting because I'm in the physics class right now, and we posed that to her, our professor, when we first started. We were like, we understand that sometimes you can't answer our questions immediately. We're not expecting you to immediately answer every single email that you get, but having this way to contact basically the class, not just you, but you being there and seeing this is a questionable comment, that's not how you answer it, but letting us help each other solve things is a lot faster, not only for the professors, but also us, because we see different ways of how people came about to solving it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I took Professor Nolly's class again, because he had it in Chem 11 and Chem 12. And it's also much easier. I work sometimes and I just don't have the time to commit to every single office hour, and I don't have that time sometimes to go back and ask him, but it's easy for me to reach him or the other students through these ways.
Why Facebook, not the source that our school offers?
You mean the email, like the group email?
Like, yeah.
Well, let me answer that, because
Yeah.
I used to use eCompanion, nobody went there.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
the
my
thing.
question, why don't they go there?
Because it's too not user-friendly.
Yeah.
It's not only not user friendly, but it's also not friendly on a personal level. Like on a Facebook group, I was in Dr. Nolly's Chem 12. On the Facebook group, it's this you're communicating with their Facebook. It's like the real person. And if you put it on the eCompanion, it's like you feel uncomfortable. You know everybody's gonna look at it, and you're afraid people might judge you if you don't know what if you're asking a question that's simple. But on the Facebook group, it's much more open and available, and we all use Facebook. We're comfortable with it. So it's much better than the companion.
And then also to add on,
Go ahead, Bill.
yeah, just to add on to your question about that, I've had other classes where we do, the option is available to use eCompanion, but like in the survey, I had one class, it wasn't a STEM class, but I'm just going to use it here just because the professor there ended up taking a survey like in the middle of the semester, and she was like, why are we not using this when this is available to us? And it doesn't work as often
Yeah,
as people think it does. It has
Although
a lot
I
of
hate
issues.
eCompanion.
It does not work.
I just thought I was the only
It
one.
breaks down, and then you can't, you think you post something, it's not there anymore.
Some cookies,
You're wondering why
caches,
isn't
I'm
it
like,
working yet?
yeah.
It's not compatible to a lot of,
Yeah.
it's an IT issue. So that's probably why also it's just not user friendly.
I teach physics and I use a forum called Piazza, which allows, it has like a full equation editor in there, which is very useful.
Yeah.
You know, I was gonna comment that my reason is just, I think you wanna go where the students are, and they're not in eCompanion. I use it for 3-4 years, and it's just not really getting the results I wanted, so I don't use Facebook for personal reasons.
Right.
I only
Yeah.
use it for the class. That's the
Yeah.
only reason I ever created a Facebook
Yeah,
account.
me
for
too.
that.
I deleted
True,
my Facebook
actually.
like in spring after my Chem 12 class because I was like, nah, I don't need it. But then now I just have a specific account just for my physics group, and I'm like, yeah. And I get like, they give you notifications. Okay, someone asked a question, and it's like maybe people are like nervous to ask the same question. And again, we have this idea that if someone else, don't be afraid to ask questions, because what if the other students in the class have the same questions? It does answer a lot of questions, a lot of people's similar questions at the same time. So yeah.
Right, Jeff, what if I have a Facebook page and it's my personal page, and then I have Mr. London's Facebook page?
Yeah, it's okay. Not a problem.
Yeah.
It's probably
Just
better.
to put it out there, I've never actually
Yeah.
friended my professor. Like it's not a personal thing. It's sort of weird to me. So I go specifically just because this is a class. This is the Facebook class that I have. And again, with that is like I've noticed for my Chem 11 class, I had to re-add myself onto that. So you can get rid of people. Like I'm just putting it out there. You can get rid of people, and it's not like we go there for other personal reasons. We go there mostly for your knowledge. So yeah.
Anyone else have any comments?
Yeah, I personally have never used this Facebook group thing, and I don't plan on using this because so far my Chem 11 and Chem 12 Professor Shea, whenever I try to ask her something, I directly email her, and almost always she has responded to me the same day or same night. So I feel that you don't have to directly post that on eCompanion or where everyone can see it. You could try and ask the question directly to your professor's email and see how that goes.
And I think that's better, and it's nice to have that personal connection, but having a second resource available, because even when you have a Facebook group, the email option is still available to you.
Yeah.
If you want to ask a personal question, you don't want to make it public, that's fine, but having that additional resource that's there if you want it is nice.
I found that useful too because in like science and math classes, sometimes like the professor can be explaining it like beautifully and like perfect, like like gold, but like not every student is gonna get it just because our minds work differently. So I found that sometimes with some like amazing professors, like I don't understand something, but then a student explains it a certain way to me, and then it just clicks, and then I completely get it. Not that the professor approached it like an incorrect way, it's just we all think differently. So I feel like when you put more minds together, you can get a lot more done.
I can just imagine it's easier from a teacher's perspective to use Facebook, because if 10, 15 people email you about the same question, as opposed to answering that same question 10 to 15 times, if you post it just once, it's answered for everyone. That's just I feel like it would be much easier for you guys, and it achieves the same goal.
I really like your comment that you said when I signed up for Chem 11 for Dr. Nolly's class, and I walked in the first day of class. It was like, oh, be on the Facebook page. I went to his office right after. I don't even know if you remember this, but I went to his office and I was like, oh no, I don't do Facebook. I'm like, is this going to be a problem? And he was like, yeah, just do the Facebook. And I was like, okay. Like, I went home that day and I was like, am I going to have to drop this class? because I don't do Facebook. But then I just did the Facebook, and you know, honestly, it was such a vital resource for me. And it seems like such a silly thing, like, you know, like, oh, Facebook, you know, but it was such a vital resource for me, and it still is. I mean, I do the SI currently for the Chem 12 class, and I use that to contact, students use that to contact me instead of contacting me through my email. The way that they contact me is through my message, and you know, it's been such a vital resource, and I see how it helps me. It's helped me, and not only myself, but many other students. And to kind of get back to the original question and off the Facebook a little bit, one of the things that, you know, what's been really great, I've done relatively well in my classes, but nonetheless, like, I'm still like really insecure about like the material a lot of time, or if I am really doing well, or if I really, like, oh, okay, I got an A on that test, but do I really know what's going on here? Am I going to be able to, you know, do well on the final? And the littlest, like, encouragements have meant the world to me as a student. Like, when a professor says, just takes a second out of time to be like, you know, you're doing a really great job. Like, that has meant, like, I got a math test back, and just there was my grade, and underneath the grade, great work. Like, that meant, like, and like that to me was like so memorable, and that's like, I think, one of the most, the biggest contributing factor to me as a STEM student, and what I've had from my STEM professors has been like those little encouragements, because it's like, it's a long semester, and it's like, it's so like emotionally like wearing, and so, because you know, you're trying so hard, and like, you know, you didn't do as well on this as you wanted to, and like just the different, you know, valleys and peaks that you can go through in a semester, and just those little moments of like, hey, you're doing a really good job. Like, that has been just the most priceless thing.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Little personalized comments on a test, like, good work on this problem.
Yeah, and then you get to tease your friends too. Because like we were in like a math 7 class together, and we would always almost get the same grades every time. But then if the professor gave me an excellent and him like a great work, I'm like, excellent. Yeah. No, but it's like, yeah, it's just like, I completely agree with Catherine and Tamara and Leo that it's like, it's really good, because it just gets overwhelming like at times when you just reach that point where you're just like, I just think I'm not a good student and I'm gonna die. And
it's true though. You get to that point and you're like I've cried over classes.
And then
like in front of
and then you're like a
professor,
zombie
too.
walking on campus, and then this professor comes in and tells you, hey, you've been doing a great work. And I'm like, oh, I did not think so, but thank you. And then you just feel like, okay, I'm back on track. And then, it's just really helpful.
Anyone else? All right, so coming around now is just an evaluation slip. We said about 15 more minutes. So the next question, when course material in a STEM class becomes challenging, what can STEM faculty do to urge you to persevere?
We were just saying the little tips of encouragement there. Are we?
No, you don't need those.
Okay.
Yeah, to add on to that, sorry, we keep going back to Professor Ramsey, but Professor Ramsey, like whenever like we're going through material and he sees we're kind of struggling, he kind of just does this throughout the course. Like he kind of reminds us, he's like, oh, you guys are working so hard, you're doing so great. Like, it kind of reminds us, like, you're working so hard right now, so don't, like, he doesn't say it, but, like, it's kind of like you can kind of think, like, okay, like, I put in all this work, so I should keep putting in more work. Like, why would I, like, start going downhill now, you know? So I feel like that stuff helps. And then also, like, giving, like, resources, other resources as well. Like, I've had professors, like, send us, like videos that'll help us, or, like, you know, just little stuff
Yeah.
that can be helpful with something difficult. Just because some people learn different ways, like visually or like hands-on or something like that. So that kind of stuff helps. And like real life examples too. Like, let's say you're trying to like picture like a molecule or something, like the professor could be like, oh, it's kind of like this, like something that's like in real life that we can all know, and then that helps us like relate to it.
Yeah, because I think the professors do have an idea because they've been teaching for so many semesters that, okay, my grade, my class average drops at this point and I don't understand what is the problem, but maybe this is like hard for the students. So yeah, maybe like videos of solved examples or like study guides or, you know, like, so anything that could help us like just get an idea of if, are we getting the concepts right, or yeah, just like, yeah, talking to us about, or asking us like, you know, what is it that's causing this problem? Why don't you understand this? Is there anything that I can try? Or maybe trying to use a different explanation. Because I think for my SI session as well, like, there have been times when students ask me, and I completely understand what position is the teacher in. Because now it's like I'm just doing a bit of what teachers do, like just trying to incorporate learning strategies among students. And when students ask me a certain question, I try explaining it one way, and there are certain students who don't understand it that way, and they're like, I still don't get it. And I try improvising my explanation, and I try using a different method by connecting it to a real life example, or doing something different, or moving to a different example, and then it just like clicks, and then it helps them. So it's like, yeah, just like trying to like help us understand it, and like trying to find out what is it that's causing the problem for us could be helpful.
Maybe this isn't widespread, but just in the teachers I've had, teachers have used fear as a tactic. And I don't mean that it hasn't hurt my experience as a student. For example, in Chem 11, they would say this isn't Chem 10 anymore. And from test 1 to test 2, this isn't test 1 anymore. And Chem 12, this isn't Chem 11 anymore. And I have no problem with that because it teaches me, it tells me, step your game up. It's going to be harder. The information is getting more advanced. But there have been teachers that have done that and stopped there and said, okay, go home and study. And then there are teachers who have said this, this, and this, but it's doable. For me, that's been the biggest part for my success. When they tell me it can be done, it's so hard. It will be challenging, but it's possible. That one little part at the end is what's been instrumental to me. And I've done well in both settings, but I find myself and other students doing much better when they do say it's possible.
Well, it sounds like it's important to say it's possible, and then to also provide some structure and ways for you guys to get that learning and get there, right?
Exactly.
It's possible, and here's how you get there.
Exactly.
Anyone else have a comment?
Just add real quick. Like whenever, if I've like hit a part of a class or had a class that I've struggled with, just to have that, to feel like my professor is invested in my success and doesn't see me as just a student who just wants an A. Because I realize that is, you know, especially here at Santa Monica College, it's really competitive. And, you know, there are a lot of students who are just like A focused. It's like, I need the A, you know, because I have this future planned out in front of me. And, you know, and I've been that student where sometimes I'm like, all I can see is like, I need an A, because my life depends on it, you know, and it feels that way sometimes. But a lot of times, like, you know, when I like look at myself, like, why is this so important? It's not really about the A. It's about like feeling good about myself, about feeling like I actually have a future, and when I'm trying to get a future, you know, like I want this XYZ future, and you know, I want to know this stuff. I want to feel like confident that I'm heading in the right direction. And sometimes just to have just the professors, like if I hit a wall, just to have, it just makes the world of a difference to have someone invested in my future and see that I'm not just a student who just wants an A to get an A, and I'm not just trying to get an easy way out, that I really work hard. Like, I really enjoy when a professor sees, like, I see that you're working so hard, and I know that you're having a challenge right now, and like, that's okay. But just to have that acknowledgement that they know that I'm working hard, and it's not that I'm just, like, it's not just about the grade, it's about everything that it stands for in my own mind, which could be unreasonable to someone, like, oh, if I don't get an A, then I'm dumb, like, and sometimes it feels that way, you know, in my own mind, but to have that kind of acknowledgement of, like, I see you working so hard, that goes a long way, like, a long way, like, that makes me feel comfortable with the person that I'm in front of, like, that professor, the person I'm learning, I feel like I'm seen.
Anyone else? All right, so the next question actually comes from my colleague, Professor William Coleman, and I guess if, at the end of it, if you can kind of, I guess, steer us more in the direction that you envision, that would be, well, I think good for the panel. So, in your evolution as a STEM student, which changes have been most important to your success? So, like, what was sort of your idea?
Well, my thinking is that as students, we change what we do over time, from the time when we start school to when we're through college, graduate school, and so forth. And during that time, of course, we don't stay as the same student. I can think back to myself at certain times that I made like key jumps in my own way of approaching how to succeed in the classroom environment, and so I just would like to open it up to other students, and see what they have to say about that. But can be, in my own personal life, I can think back, early on when I maybe didn't do my homework, and then I started doing my homework, and I can think back at times when I never prepared for a class to the point where I started actually reading the material ahead of time. What a revolution that was. I mean, I thought it was normal to go to a class and be confused most of the time and then try to figure out with your notes later on. And then I think I was like a sophomore or junior in college when I actually started reading material before I went to class. And it's like, oh my God, I understand 90% of this. A lot of times I know what the teacher's going to say before they even say it, and it was a great feeling. So those are the kinds of things you can do as a student to become better. And so I was just wondering what things you have found take you up a notch.
I started off, when I first started taking STEM classes, because I was part-time for the first maybe year and a half, and then I started taking, I think my first STEM class was Physics 14, or maybe it was Math 31, and I did not have an understanding at all of how to succeed in a STEM course. Like, I'd only taken, GEs and non-STEM courses. And for those classes, it was sufficient to go to class, take notes, pay attention, and then before exams, look through my notebook for a few hours. And that would get me an A in the class. And as I got deeper into the STEM courses, I began to understand how essential the homework was, but not just understanding the homework, but doing homework and just working problems. Like when I first took, it was Math 31, I didn't get that, and on the first test, I looked through my notes and I looked through the homework problems, like, okay, I know how to do everything here. I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. But knowing that, no, it's not good enough to just understand how this works, I have to work 100 problems. And then I have to rework them. And that comfortability in doing problems and working problems over and a lot of problems has been, I think, the most important change that I've made as I got into deeper and harder STEM courses. And it's also helped when teachers acknowledge that and they tell me, I think I've probably had a teacher at some point tell me, you have to do problems in order to understand this. It's not good enough to just understand it. And I hate to say this, but I think I've done better in courses where homework was required.
Yeah.
Where you had to turn it in. Like I'm sorry to all future STEM students but I really think that requiring me to turn in homework is going to make me more successful, whether I like it or not.
Right. And just to add on to that, again, I'll get back to my Math 8 professor. Like, like usually in math classes, the teachers assign us odd numbered exercises and they tell us, okay, do this, and they might ask us to turn it in or no. But what happened was, at times, I used to hate doing math textbook problems because they just ended up becoming redundant, and I hate redundancy. I like looking at different things because I know I can solve this problem. Why would I need to solve 6 more problems if I know for sure I know it? So my professor, what he would do was he would handpick like 5, 8 problems, and then those would be due the next on Wednesday. I mean, because it was a short semester, but in a long semester, it's due every day. So he would give you like 8 problems, and then he would give you in-class problems, which are problems which he made up on his own, or he found somewhere else, and he would give you like 5 problems. So maybe just a set of like 5 or 6 problems or 10 problems per day, not like a lot of homework, but if like there is some kind of like requirement for the students to do, it keeps them on track, but it does not overwhelm them. And I know it is really hard to determine what is that range of problems that is, but I think maybe it's like, maybe we can start with something low, like 5 problems, but if you think it's really easy for the students, you can push it up to like 8 problems, okay, and then have that for like students, so it keeps them on track, but it also does not overwhelm them. And coming back to what helped me was, usually it's like, for me, to be honest, I don't get time to study. To be honest, I don't get time to study because I have like so much going on in my life, and it's like at first I would just study hard enough to pass the class in India because I'm from India, so I came here like a few years ago. In India, I just studied hard enough to pass the class. I would be outgoing in the class discussions, but then when it came to tests, I would get B's and C's, and my dad would be like, "You're a liar. You just told me that you're doing so good in class, and then you're just going to be getting C's on the test. What is this?" But people knew I was smart, but I was not book smart. So again, I love one thing about the US that they ask us application-based questions. So I understood one important thing throughout my journey till today is that understand the process. Do not just by heart those problems that you've come across so many times, and we just become robots and we're like, oh, if this is asked this way, I can just do it this way. But it's like teachers have that idea that students don't need to just memorize stuff, because memorization is good to a certain extent, but it can kill you, you know? Like, how much would you memorize in like a semester with so many classes and so many formulas? So it's like, if the students are made or encouraged to understand the process, like, why are you doing what you're doing? What would happen if you tried this? Why wouldn't this part work? Why would only this way work? It is so helpful because now if you don't even know how to do it from scratch, you can actually derive that formula in physics or that formula in math from scratch on the exam because you know your stuff. So for me, the most important thing is to understand, and that's what I do when I sit in a lecture. I try to write really good notes really fast, and I write really fast, and I remember stuff because I connect it as a story. I take it as a storyboard. So I'm like, okay, the teacher said this. What led to this? Like, you know, I create like a cause-effect idea in my brain. I don't know how I do that, but it's just helpful. So I just do that, and it's like understanding it in maybe bits and pieces or episodes is something that has helped me a lot. And that's my general strategy for every kind of class I look at. And maybe I just look at different resources. I do not expect the teacher to give me a platter and be like, this is all you have to know for this class, because I need to put in some efforts too as a STEM student. And that's when my resources like watching videos on YouTube or doing extra research or going to the office hours comes in. So definitely, we don't want you guys doing all the work, definitely, it's from us too. And it's important that maybe the teachers do tell the students that, yes, I'm going to try my best, this is my resources, but guys, you need to understand, this is for you. You are going to earn this A. So come on, I'm not going to give you everything, but hey, I'm here. I'm always here to help you guys if you're stuck. But give your best and take this as, like, you don't want to turn back and say, I could have done better, you know? And that's my wallpaper. Like, don't ask yourself, why are you doing this? Do not regret that you could have done better in that class and gotten an easy A. And just like, you know, so I just think of it that way.
Yeah.
Sorry for taking so long.
Yeah, if I could just add on to her point, I've learned, like, I guess my evolution would have been through 2 things. One, I work part-time, but when I started, used to work a little bit more than part-time and still go to school full-time, that's a no. Like, I'm just putting it out there. If you have students who are like that, like, I like classes where my professor is like, right off the bat, like, you can't work full-time and still do this. It's so hard. There are very few students who I know who are able to do something like that, like work extra long hours and still put enough time for studying for classes. And I like in my Chem 12 class, at the beginning of the class, even in Chem 11, we're handed a sheet that we got from STEM, and it's like block in the classes that you're taking. Okay, multiply each STEM class times 3, multiply each G times 2 in the units, basically. That's the number of hours we need to study. And my first semester,
Minimum.
yeah,
We got over the times 3.
exactly. In my first semester, I had to study like 26 hours, and there were only 24 hours in a day. I was like, what is this? Like, I still have to, and that's like minus traffic getting here, minus like, oh, I'm eating, socializing, doing all, so it's important for me, for time management, that was key for me, to understand, just as a person, I cannot do this. I have to cut on something, or I have to expand on something else. And either way, something's giving for something to take, you know? And then I also learned that sometimes students are not the best at receiving what they ask. Like, what I mean by that is, I know I'm the type of person who's like, I need my professor to have off hours. I need to go to those off hours. But then I look at it on another level because I'm looking at it from experience because my mom's also a professor and I see how she deals with her students and she comes back home sometimes and she's like, I hate this. They're asking for this but they're not coming. And then I think about it when I'm here and I'm like, I'm probably asking for this but other students aren't. And so I try to look at it as my professor is also a human being, where I'm like, that's also another realization, of course, as I evolve. I'm like, it's not just about me. It's like, you know, my professor's a human being who will get annoyed that some students ask for something and then they're like, oh, we'll show up later for this or whatever, you know? And so that's something that I also learned. And I think, for me, I understand that it takes people a while to get to that point, you know, where you see somebody as not just a pot where you can get your information and be like, okay, I'm done with you this semester. I'll come back to you later maybe, you know? I had to understand that if I'm asking for something, I also have to give back as well. And I also have to understand that I'm not just, like, this is not just Professor X. This is person A. This is somebody. This is an actual human being who has emotions. And I can tell sometimes, because sometimes they'll come to class and they're like happy, and sometimes they're sad, and sometimes, you know, you gotta gauge with people as well. And so that's basically my 2 evolutions so far, you know, time management. That's very important. If you could tell students as well. I'm just putting it out there. Just tell them. It's very hard, you know, just let them know.
Thank you. So we're actually out of time now, so let's thank our panel members. We have a few backpacks and stuff for you guys, so you can sit around for a bit. So please turn evaluation.